Hello crafty friends, I'm Lean from Studio Kato and I wanted to welcome you to the Christmas in July video hop from Alex Syberia Designs. There is a new release at Alex Syberia Designs and it's all about getting started early on your Christmas cards this year. I think I definitely benefited from this release because I've made a ton of cards and I wanted to share 4 projects today with you. I have only used the Falala Friends stamp set from Alex Syberia Designs for my main images, and then I used a ton of fun background and sentiment products that are released today as well. I wanted to use all of the images in this stamp set and I think I succeeded. I am going to use the Memento Tuxedo Black ink to stamp all of my images at once. I am using my Misty for this and I'm just going to use some alcohol marker friendly ink, and then that way I can color these in with my Ohu markers. You can use any alcohol marker you like. I really like these. I think they're very fine quality for the price point you can get these at. These are very affordable markers and that's always fun. Now while I'm coloring, let me talk to you about the new release, the video hop, and obviously there is a giveaway as well today. Alex Syberia Designs is celebrating their new Christmas in July release with 3 hops. There has already been a blog hop a few days ago. Today there is a YouTube hop, and soon there will also be a hop on Instagram. Each of these has their own giveaway. So I will leave a link already to the blog hop below. So if you haven't participated in that yet, definitely check it out. Leave a comment on each stop of the hop for a chance to win some amazing prizes. But first, get your chance here. Today we are giving away, or Alex Syberia Designs is giving away, 3 20-pound gift cards to the Alex Syberia Designs store. So there will be 3 very lucky winners in the comments. All of the details for the giveaway, like by which time you need to enter and at what point they will announce the winners, are listed in the description below, so you can check those out as well. I think that's handier than if I have to tell you and maybe make a mistake here and there. So check the details of the giveaway in the description below. But basically the rules are: leave a comment on each stop of the hop, on each video in this hop, for a chance to win one of the 3 20-pound gift cards. Now I think, aside from the giveaway, which is always fun, I think a YouTube hop is such a great gift for a new release. It's such a fun way to discover the new release and get tons and tons of inspiration from your favorite creators. We have amazing people joining us. I sometimes can't believe that I'm part of these hops. But definitely check out the next video in the hop. I will leave it linked in the description below, and you can hop along to the one after that as well. There are tons of videos today. Check them all out to make sure you get all your chances in to win a gift card. Leave a comment on each stop of the hop. Each comment you leave is a chance to win one of these gift cards. So I'm finishing up my coloring here, and once I'm done, I am going to put this piece of paper back in my Misty, and I'm going to stamp it again with VersaFine Onyx Black ink. I am doing this one because this gives me a very crisp outline after coloring my images, and 2, I can emboss the outline as well. I love to add clear embossing to my VersaFine ink. That way I can get that really nice, crisp, glossy black outline for my marker colored images. Now, I wanted to take you along for the ride in the process of how I created all of these projects. So I have left it in the order that I actually crafted in. So I made all of my backgrounds, and then I started putting all of my cards together by adding sentiments, and then I really assembled them. So I like to get all of one thing out of the way before moving on to the other. Like here, I am doing some ink blending for 2 of my cards, and I wanted to do that first so then I could clean up my blending brushes, clean away my little ink cubes, and make room for the next move on my card making journey here. So for this card, I am blending a really soft background. Well, I'm blending a pretty soft background in the beginning, and then I'm adding more contrast to the top of it, but it's very soft at the bottom, so it blends nicely into the white of the rest of the card. I really like that look. I don't do it often enough because in general, I don't like top-heavy card designs. I am very scared of them for some reason. I don't do them a lot. But for this one, with some falling snow in a second, I thought it would be best to create a scene at the top of my card. I'm using my trusted Inkstand Mini to keep all of my ink cubes in place, and I am using Conquer the Ninth inks because they blend like butter. They are so fun to blend with. I've never had a single issue with them. For my background, or to give it a little bit more spice, I am using the new Alex Syberia Designs Falling Snow stencil. This is a very simple stencil, but I love it. It's a little bit different than other snow stencils I've seen. There are definitely larger spots in there, so I feel like it gives you a little bit more to work with. I'm using some texture paste from Ranger to add the snow. And the snow is also pretty spaced out, so it doesn't really take over your scene. If you want more snow, you can always shift your stencil around and add more. So I feel like this gives you a great option to get a few different looks. If you shift your stencil around after adding your first layer of snow, you can add more later, but you don't have to worry about having too much to cover up your ink blended background, for example. Now, after this is done, I am going to take my heat tool and heat set the snow. Not because I needed this to be sped up drying, because I had plenty of things to work on, but heating up texture pastes makes it puff up a little bit. And that's a really fun look for snow. I love it. So I always heat up my texture pastes to get that puffy look. This is the critter I want to use for that card, and I'm just figuring this out because I also have to figure out the layout of my next cards, but also which sentiments to use in a second. So I already have an idea in mind for each card. I am not just making random backgrounds here. For the second card, for the second background, I am going to use the Sparkly Flakes cover die, also new from Alex Syberia Designs, and I am again doing some ink blending. So I masked off some pieces of my card here so I can ink blend just a strip going horizontally over my card. I really like this as a fun grounding element for my critter. It's a great way to catch the eye, just a little pop of color, and it's really quick to do because there's not a lot of ink blending involved. I already know I wanted to use the skating bunny for this card, and I have colored all of her accessories with red and peachy tones. So to give a little bit of contrast to that, I am using blues and greens in this little backdrop. I'm blending from my dark blue to a very light teal color, and then I'm blending from a light green to a darker green. Now, for most of my sentiments today, I am going to use the new Christmas Sentiments stamp set from Alex Syberia Designs. There is a coordinating die set available for all of the sentiments, which is lovely. I love when companies add coordinating dies for each sentiment, because that gets me to use them a lot more. Like this one, I love the little wavy layout of this sentiment. It's also a very lovely sentiment, by the way. Choose joy every day. You can definitely use that for more than just Christmas cards. And I white heat embossed that on some silver cardstock, and I am going to die cut that out. For this little snowfall card, I am again going to use that same stamp set, and I'm going to use the Let It Snow sentiment. And I also love that Alex Syberia Designs has so many different fonts in their sentiment stamp sets. So you can sort of decide based on the font which sentiment you want to add to a card, because I don't know about you, but I always have trouble finding a fitting sentiment to a card or deciding on a fitting sentiment for a card. So I enjoy that there are more design elements to play with in these stamp sets. So Alex Syberia Designs has a sentiment stamp set in each of their releases, and I always enjoy them. But the Christmas sentiment set is definitely going to get a lot of use in my house. For my third card, I am just going to work on a dark green background, and I have the little sleigh here with all of the presents and a tiny little bird on top as well. I want to keep this very clean and simple. Actually, all of these cards are pretty clean and simple, and I am just going to heat emboss another of those Christmas sentiments stamp on this card. So I'm going to stamp this again with Versamark ink, and then I can heat emboss this with some gold embossing powder. Now, if you're making a lot of projects at once, which I feel like always happens with Christmas cards, and you're doing it like me, so you have your backgrounds figured out, and then you do your sentiments, it's very easy to stamp your sentiments all at once, add the powder to them, and then heat set them all at once. So you only have to let your heat gun heat up once. That just saves on the waiting time. Now, all of my 3 card backgrounds are done. I'm going to add them to my white note cards. Now, I always mess my note cards up. I just never seem to get them cut quite right, but I don't mind that. I just trim them up with my scissors, my large Tim Holtz scissors, and that helps me out. So you can see that white peeking out. I'm just going to open the card base, trim off the excess white on the front panel, and then I'm going to trim it off on the back panel as well. And that just is a really easy way to get your card panel to always fit your card base. Or maybe you're one of those magical people that always cuts their card bases exactly right. That is not me. Now that all of the card panels have found a card base, I am going to add my critters to these. Now, I did mention that I have a 4th project even, so I am making these 3 cards now and assembling them, but I already have a 4th project that I know exactly what to do with, but it didn't really fit the workflow of the other ones where I made the backgrounds first and did all the sentiments. So I'm going to show you that tag once all of these are assembled. For now, I am just propping all of my images up on some foam tape. For the critters, that was very simple. I just used a single layer of foam tape for the critters and the sentiment with the bunny as well. But for the sleigh, I'm going to switch it up a little bit. You can make these cards definitely a little bit more involved. Like, I didn't add any embellishments to these, and I might still do that later. Sometimes before I send off a card, I just add a little something here and there if I'm feeling like it. But yeah, you can definitely add some embellishments to these, but I wanted to keep these very clean and simple because usually that's what my Christmas cards are like. I have to make so many Christmas cards, and I like to keep it a little bit more simple. Now, I did say I'm going to switch it up a little bit for the sleigh, and that just means that for the sleigh itself, I have added 2 layers of foam tape behind it. That way it sits a little bit more to the front than my presents will. So I'm just adding a single layer of foam tape to these presents. Now, I did add the foam tape on my sleigh a little bit too high. So the presents don't fit behind that anymore. So I'm just going to fiddle a little bit with the foam tape to make some more room for those presents. And when that doesn't work out, I just snip off a little part of the present and that way it fits in the sleigh. I'm going to do the exact same thing with that little pink present as well. I'm going to play around with it, play around with the placement a little bit for those presents. So I haven't taped anything down yet. The release paper is still on the back of those presents, so they're not glued in place. And I still have some room to play with the layout of this card. Once I'm ready to commit, I take the release paper off and I just place them wherever they fit. I do want to add that little bird. I almost forgot him, but then I saw him right at the end. And I'm even going to add a tiny piece of foam tape behind the bird, because you can't just have that bird not being propped up. That wouldn't be right. So a tiny piece of foam tape there, and that finishes off this card as well. A really simple sentiment, some really simple images, and a extremely simple, solid colored background. Now for my tag, I am going to show you some more products from this release. This first one is the Fa La La hot foil plate. I am going to foil this in some rose gold foil from Spellbinders. I think this is satin rose gold. I'm not entirely sure of the name. I will leave it in the description below along with all of the other supplies I've used today. It didn't foil exactly perfect, but I thought that would be okay. It's not, there's a little bit of underfoiling on the F and the little swirl at the end, but I don't think anyone is going to really notice that. To create a tag, I am going to use this snowflake layering die, which is definitely one of my favorite products in this entire release. It's so fun. It can be easily used as a backdrop for a critter on a card. I mean, that's almost what I did, but then I figured I would make a tiny little shaped card with it. I can still use it as a card if I want to. It's just going to be a very little one, or I could use this as a tag as well. So I cut 2 of those solid layers of the snowflake out of white cardstock. I added a score line in one of them, and I'm going to add glue to everything above that score line. This is going to create a hinge so my little shaped card or my little shaped tag can open up. So I am just going to add the second white snowflake right on top of that. It's not entirely symmetrical. It's very hard to notice when you're just looking at the solid layer, but you can see that there are some different, what do you call them, spikes to the snowflake. If you look at the layer that's supposed to be on top, that white glitter layer that you see right there, there is a little bit of a difference between those little pointy ends. So you might need to fiddle around with it a little bit to make sure you have it lined up perfectly. But once you do, it just slots into place. I cut an additional layer out of some sea glass cardstock, and that's just going to provide a little bit of color in my backdrop. For the, I keep wanting to say scripty layer, but it's not a sentiment die. For the top layer of the snowflake, I cut it out of white glitter cardstock, and I'm propping it up on some foam tape pieces as well, just to set it apart even more from that sea glass cardstock. And that way it adds a little bit of shadow to the tag, and it's just, I love dimension. I love foam tape. To finish this tag, I am going to add some paper bows. These are the pretty bows, also new from this Christmas in July release from Alex Syberia Designs. You get 2 bows in this die set. And you can, I think the point of them is to make wreaths. So Alex Syberia Designs has released 2 more tiny little die sets that have some really fun greenery elements and holly and berries and all of the things you want to add to a Christmas wreath. and I think the bows would finish that wreath off perfectly. So those 3 tiny die sets work perfectly together, but I think the bows are really fun to use as additional embellishments to a tag, for example, but I can see myself using these all the time. You can use them separately, but I think they're meant to be layered. They look really well layered up together, so that's what I did today. I added my little pig and his little hat as well on some foam tape. And then for the fa la la sentiment, I die cut it out with the coordinating fa la la layering sentiment die set. So that cuts out the scripty layer and the shadow layer. And you can use the shadow layer to cut out your hot foiled sentiment as well. I layered that up just to add a little bit more stability to that sentiment, but I also added foam tape to add more dimension. I just didn't add foam tape to the part that goes over top of the pig. And that finishes off my little tag as well, or my mini shaped card. Could be both, could be either. I really like how this turned out. I love the pink and the sea glass colors in it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I showed you many projects just with one stamp set, and I love how they all turned out. I hope you also enjoyed going along for the process of making these and how I usually craft making all the backgrounds at once. I hope that was helpful for you. I don't usually show my videos that way, but I thought it would be fun, especially for Christmas cards, since so many of us mass produce those. Check out all of the new release info in the description below, along, of course, with the giveaway info for this amazing YouTube hop. Don't forget to check out the next video because all of the creators in this hop are so fun. They're all people that I enjoy watching on YouTube, so I hope you will too. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.